So many apps open. That's not good.
We are live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Carl Coulange. Thank you for tuning in to the Sports Hit List by the fans on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. To kick off today's show, let me introduce my contributors. We have Brandon Falco from the Falco Takeaway. Brandon, how you doing, man?
What up, what up, what up?
We have Ray Jarvis from the Gray Area. Ray, how you doing, bro?
Good to be back as always.
Again, thank you to all the fans for supporting and liking, sharing, and commenting on all social media platforms. Today's debate has LeBron replaced Kobe in Jordan debates. Ray Jarvis posed a question in our group. Shout out to the Sports Hit List groups, which keeps our daily content. So, Ray, I'm going to open the floor to you for your opening statements. Why did you make this statement, and what does it mean?
I just look around at the media coverage of the NBA and way things are veering. We generally see the media, the writers, the talking heads, etc. They talk about LeBron James, they put him on a certain pedestal, but then the guys who played with Kobe Bryant, the athletes seem to still revere Kobe and they hold him up much higher. Like if you talk to a scribe or something, they might have Kobe in the top 10. You talk to a player, they'll have Kobe top 5, top 2, whatever. Granted, there's personal feelings on both sides of the fence, but I just feel as though I'm starting to see a loud contingent of people actively trying to push Kobe out of the way, and I don't think that's necessarily fair, Carl. That's all.
Okay. So Brandon Falco, clearly you can tell by his jerseys in the back, he's Team LeBron, and he's here to stick up for his guy. And when he heard the comment, he said, Carl, I'm taking this one on. Book it. So, Falco, what's your feeling on what Ray had to say and his question?
No disrespect to Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. He's an all-time great player, a top 10 player of all time. But Kobe Bryant was never in the conversation of greatest of all time. The greatest of all time did not take place until LeBron James arrived and made his mark, especially in that 3-1 comeback against Golden State. If this question was whose game is closer in terms of play style to Michael Jordan, I lose. Kobe Bryant is a mirror image of Michael Jordan, and the best way to flatter someone is copy them. So congratulations to Kobe Bryant. He flattered Michael Jordan and copied him. Excuse me. Now let's go to LeBron James. In the year 2000, when he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, called the chosen one, the real chosen one, not the fake one of Carl Coulange, he was regarded as a potential best player of all time. As he goes on his career, he had that type of potential, the best high school player arguably we've ever seen of all time. Once the 2012-2013 season finished, where LeBron James and the Miami Heat defeated the San Antonio Spurs, he had 4 MVPs and 2 finals MVPs. He sat on the podium with Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson told him that, LeBron James, you have a real chance to be the greatest player of all time, the first player ever to actually catch a throne with him. Was he there yet? No, but he eventually is making his mark. Is he the greatest of all time as we speak? That's a conversation for another day. But in terms of Kobe Bryant, there's no comparison. In 2016, that's what really made his mark as in the conversation of greatest player of all time. The 3-1 comeback against Golden State, against the greatest team of all time, 73-9. During that parade is what Michael Jordan made him do the last dance. And that's where the debate really started. LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. Ever since then, every topic that's spoken about, whether it's Undisputed, First Take, Get Up, anything you talk about, First Things First, any topic, it's always, does this make LeBron James better than Michael Jordan now? In 2017, entering the finals, they say, if LeBron James could pull this off, is he the greatest player of all time now? When he passed him in points, is LeBron James the greatest player of all time? No matter what way you slice it, the media, and especially when you go to the last dance, especially now, the pressure's now on LeBron James to deliver a title to Tinseltown. Now we have to say, every episode, LeBron James can't do this. Did LeBron James actually do this? The Last Dance finale that we had on the Sports Hit List, the conversation was LeBron James and Michael Jordan. You had myself, Andres, and Marcus Lamar to go on that set to defend LeBron James. And you specifically, Carl, had the shirt and the discussion, the 2 best players of all time, LeBron James and Michael Jordan. I do not see Kobe Bryant in this image. The floor is yours.
Okay.
And this is what I talk about, Carl. His whole basis of his argument is based on how the media reports and covers the sport. If we learned anything, just the other day, Ramona Shelburne talked about how she voted for MVP and she voted for LeBron because she's a narrative-based voter, right? It's called narratives. The NBA is a TV show. So if they decide that LeBron James is the person they want to make the centerpiece of said TV show, they're going to position him that way. So of course they're going to ask the questions of, is he the greatest? Why? Because you're going to have a contingent of people who are going to overreact. Most of that contingent of people are going to be Kobe Bryant fans who are going to overreact negatively. Then you're going to have the LeBron drones like yourself, Brandon, who's going to react positively. Yeah, I drink the Kool-Aid and believe that it's facts, but at the end of the day, the on-court product speaks for itself. At some point or the other, the NBA media decided that the on-court product doesn't matter when we can tell you something because Joe Schmo is going to believe it anyway. So if I tell you that LeBron James is the greatest, and I keep telling you since you've been you're like 21 years old, LeBron been in the league since 03, so most of your life you've been told LeBron is great or he's the greatest. So of course you're going to drink the Kool-Aid. But again, I'm going to repeat it. The on-court product speaks for itself. What he's accomplished as a player does not make him the GOAT. And frankly, in some arguments, you can't even say he got past Kobe, which is why Kobe Bryant's contemporaries, the people who played the game, have said that Kobe is the greatest or in that discussion, because you still have to accomplish something when you get on the court. You still have to measure up and add up at the end of the day. At some point, when we pick up a sport to play, the objective is to win, right, Carl?
It is, absolutely.
So at the end of the day, the objective is to win, and if you're a high-skilled athlete, your objective is to be the absolute best that you can be. So if that's the case, why wouldn't Kobe Bryant's contemporaries hold him up there? They look at the guy as the standard. If it's not Jordan, it's Kobe as a person to win and be the best that he can be. So we cannot besmirch that because the media told us that LeBron is the greatest. And that's not to take away from LeBron James. LeBron James has accomplished a lot. This is not a slander piece. This is not a puff piece against LeBron James. It's just about the fact that when it got on the court, there are moments that we've seen with our own eyes, and in my case, 4 eyes, that says that LeBron James is not the GOAT, and he's not in that conversation just yet. That's all.
So, Brandon, let me ask you. Hold on, Brandon. Let me just ask you this question. You said Kobe was never in the conversation, but prior to LeBron James's arrival, there was that conversation that it was Jordan and Kobe.
No, there wasn't. There was
that. Again, listen to what I just said. Prior. I'm just
know. He was a toddler when that happened.
Nobody questioned Kobe Bryant being better than Michael Jordan. They said his game is similar, and Kobe wanted to be Michael Jordan. That is a totally different conversation. And right here, I'm not debating LeBron and Michael Jordan right now. I'm debating LeBron James versus Kobe Bryant. Shout out to Andres right now, Mr. Numbers. I got to steal your nickname for a second because I got to list off some numbers. So LeBron James in the regular season and postseason averages more points than Kobe Bryant, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, field goal percentage, three-point percentage, for box score plus minus, and true shooting percentage. When they play head-to-head, LeBron James is 16-6 against Kobe Bryant. And some may say, oh, well, some of those were with the Heat. 7 of those games were with the Heat. And in 2 of those Lakers wins, Kobe Bryant played 6 minutes and 17 minutes. Next, 4 MVPs versus 1 MVP. Oh, well, it's a media award. Well, if you look at top 2 finishes, LeBron James has 8. Kobe Bryant has 2. Next, LeBron James isn't clutch. They love to say LeBron's not clutch and Mamba mentality, which is not a real argument. I understand Kobe Bryant's determination to win, respect the hell out of him. But in under 10 seconds in the postseason, the game to tie a game or take the lead in regulation or overtime. LeBron James is 12 of 23. Kobe Bryant is 5 of 22. If you can't do math, LeBron James is shooting a way higher percentage. If you make it down under 5 seconds, LeBron is 6 of 11. Kobe is 2 of 7. LeBron James has 5 buzzer beaters in the playoffs to Kobe's 1. He actually has more buzzer beaters than Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant combined. LeBron James also has the highest points per game in elimination games as well as game 7s. They tell me he's not clutch. Kobe Bryant is supposed to be a better scorer than him. That's what they've told me. But in the playoffs, LeBron James has 27 40-point games versus Kobe's 13. LeBron also has 110 30-point games, which is the most of all time, versus Kobe's 88. And LeBron's very first playoff series he's ever played in 2006 as a 21-year-old, my age, he averaged more points, 35.7, than Kobe Bryant has in his entire career, 32.8, which he did in the first round of the 2007 playoffs, which they actually lost in 5 games. Also, 2018 playoff run, LeBron averaged more points, rebounds, assists, more than Kobe Bryant has ever had in his best years ever. So I don't know how you could possibly make a legitimate argument besides your feelings and emotions that Kobe Bryant is better than LeBron James. Kobe Bryant is great, no disrespect to him, but he's not in the class of greatness as LeBron James. The GOAT debate is LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. The floor is yours.
This is a problem that I have with this discussion. Most people who drone themselves around LeBron James, the first thing they do, Carl, they pick up their calculator and they throw stats at you. Last time I checked, you played a game with a basketball. You don't play with a calculator. Of course, LeBron James is going to win a statistical argument over Kobe. If you look at their careers, again, we're talking basketball. If you look at their careers, LeBron James has been in a position to compile stats that Kobe Bryant never cared to compile from day one. Secondly, the style of play dictates how you compile your stats. Kobe Bryant is a gunner. He's been a gunner. He's not out there chasing stats as far as rebounds and assists. He's not chasing the usage rate like that, like a LeBron James. If you look at the way they approach basketball, this is why I can't talk to certain people. Not shooting at Brandon, but this is specific about how you approach the game. If I'm not dribbling the ball and trying to dictate the entire offense, playing my player basketball, then I won't be able to compile set stats. But again, when we talk about the approach to basketball and playing the game, how does what I do dictate the terms of winning championships and winning basketball and playing against upper tier competition throughout his entire career? Granted, LeBron James has the numbers, but Kobe Bryant's also played in the Western Conference, right? And a lot of people say, oh, the West is so tough. Absolutely. Kobe Bryant in 2 separate times in his career had to go through a Western Conference playoff run where he had to play 350-win teams just to get to the finals. And yes, he won a championship both of those years. Why did he win a championship? Because he was on a great team. Slow down, Brandon. I'll let you talk, big dog. At the end of the day, he's gone against upper tier competition. When he's gone against upper tier competition, he's been the focal point of the championships. Again, I said 2001, right? Look at his numbers. Since you want to talk numbers, look at his numbers in 2001. Look at his numbers post-Shaq. Kobe Bryant's always been in a position where his game, the way he approaches basketball, dictates winning championships. As soon as he popped his Achilles, it was done. When Del Harris tried to sabotage his career on the front end, you can't talk about that. But from the time Phil Jackson got in position and realized what he had in being all the way through to the Achilles, Kobe Bryant's whole purpose was to win games and play ball a certain way to win games. It's not about emotions and all that type of nonsense that stat nerds love. It's about how does what you do on the basketball court dictate the terms of winning. We talk about clutch and all these numbers, but what about moments, Brandon? Plenty of times LeBron James did not want the ball. I could talk to you about, as much as they talk about Ray Allen's shot that he hit in 2013, right? I remember vividly him turning the ball over a few times before we got to the shot with Ray Allen, and he tried to blame Mario Chalmers. He's always passing the ball off. He's always playing hot potato in moments where we need him to dominate. The reason why he struggled with Golden State initially is because he's not a killer. He got stats, but he couldn't dominate the way a Kobe would in that situation. You put Kobe Bryant with 2 7-footers, a soft Golden State team, and you telling me he's going to lose? Absolutely not. Why? Because he's a killer. These things matter when you actually physically play the game instead of holding a calculator and telling me stats.
That's a false narrative. LeBron James.
It happened. It can't be a false narrative if it happened, Brandon.
No, it's not. You brought up first of all. The killer instinct thing is a lie because actually the numbers I actually brought up, LeBron has taken more shots. He's taken more buzzer beaters, which he's hit more. He's taken more shots under 10 seconds, and he's hit more. And he's taken more shots under 5 seconds, which he hit more. So that mama mentality thing, that killer instinct thing, is a false narrative. And you're killing him for passing the ball.
See, that's the problem with you. You talk about a false narrative. The objective is trying to kill. It's not about making the shot.
Okay.
LeBron's best skill is to pass.
That's the problem.
Okay. So guys. Okay. Let me bring you guys back. So Ray, let me ask you. I tossed Brandon a question. Ray, let me ask you a fair question. I mean this with the utmost respect, and I'm not trying to offend Kobe Bryant or nor his family. Do you feel like because of his death, have fans and the media pushed him up to the ladder to where he may or may not belong because of how he passed away? Has his legacy been altered?
Not at all. Frankly, we've had this debate. This is like, if I had $1 for every time I had a Kobe Bryant GOAT debate that involved LeBron James, I'd be a millionaire. This is not anything new. If anything, Kobe Bryant started getting his flowers after he passed away because people were resistant in giving him his flowers when he was alive. Why? Because he didn't have good relationships with the media. A lot of people, especially during his retirement tour, there was a lot of articles that came up because I read articles. I don't hold a calculator where people was like, Kobe Bryant is a phony. Kobe Bryant is a fraud. I don't like the guy. You talked about finishing second in the MVP race. It's because the media votes on that, and a lot of people do not like Kobe. But again, if you use your eyeballs and watch the games, although you might have been 3 when these seasons happened, the fact remains is that Kobe Bryant produced at an MVP level and never got the respect he deserved. A lot of that, on top of that, is because of the rape trial. Yes, it was a Jordan comparison up until 2003, 2004. And when that rape situation happened, everything was pulled from him. The endorsements, the Jordan comps, all of that taken away. If Kobe Bryant doesn't do what he does allegedly in Colorado, it's a different vibe around his career. These are the facts. I haven't made anything up yet.
I'm not.
Brandon. Now I have one question for you.
Right.
I don't know if you remember, but I know Ray will remember this. 2009, 2010, the NBA built the narrative where you had LeBron and Kobe in the finals,
right.
and they had the puppets. That was a big narrative going on, and Kobe got there, but LeBron didn't.
In 09 you're talking about.
2009, correct. So Kobe got there, but LeBron didn't. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so that was one of LeBron's best playoff series in his entire career. And
he lost. Stop talking about stats. Did he do it?
These things happen. These things happen. I did not make it up.
You go back to the stats. What about winning the game?
Hold on, Ray. Just let him answer the question. Ray, I gave you a question in the interest of fairness. Let him answer the question. Okay, but Ray,
what did he do to win?
Ray, you got to let him answer the question. I'll let you answer the question. Now I have his question.
I'm sorry, Brandon. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Because Zydrunas Ilgauskas or Arison Vandershove had no answer for Dwight Howard. LeBron had 49 points in game 1, and he got blamed for losing. Came back in game 2, hit the buzzer beater game-winning 3, down 2 points. He had 3 40-point games in that series, 2 35-point game series. But, it's all LeBron's fault, right? It was his fault of losing. What do you think? He tried to lose on purpose? This whole killer mentality, Mamba mentality is ridiculous. Stop.
So you're saying wait a minute.
Can I respond to that?
Go ahead, Ray.
This is where the LeBron fans make me laugh. Their players are always good. LeBron's teammates are always good enough until he loses, and then it's their fault. You're right. You got through the first round of the Eastern Conference. You got through the second round of the Eastern Conference, and you ran into an Orlando team that wasn't anything special. And all of a sudden now it's not his fault. Kobe played the same exact team, and we took him out of there 5 games. Y'all lost in 6, and frankly, I should have got swept. Well, okay, it's Ilgauskas' fault. It's Jameson's fault. Come on now. At the end of the day, I don't want to hear that nonsense.
Okay. So hold on one second.
Enough to get it done.
Okay, so Brandon, I have a question. You just said that the whole entire Mamba mentality is a false narrative,
no, it's not.
Who said that?
Let me correct my statement. I meant like LeBron not a killer, like that affects him, or like Kobe having a Mamba mentality makes him better at basketball. That's what I meant. Not to say, I'm correct. Yeah,
I'll respond to that too, Carl, once he's done.
Yeah, okay. That's what I meant.
So you're not saying that it doesn't exist.
No,
you're saying
LeBron doesn't have a killer mentality because he's the best passer of this generation since Magic Johnson. That he looks to pass the ball because that's his best strength. His best strength is attacking the rim and finishing, or passing the basketball. He's not a Kobe Bryant who shoots in traffic better than anyone in the history of the game. Now, I'm not here to argue that. If that was the case, you win. Kobe loves to take tough shots, and he's a tough shot maker. That's not LeBron's game. He attacks the rim, he flashes the 3-ball, and he's a facilitator. He's the best passer in the NBA since Magic Johnson. That's my case. They're 2 entirely different players, and I'm not here to compare their playing style. Because if you want to talk about who's closer to Kobe Bryant in terms of playing style, that is obviously Kobe Bryant. That's not close.
So, but again, Brandon, you're just here to basically say Kobe's not even close to being in the conversation of GOAT, or even close.
He's not better at basketball than LeBron James or Michael Jordan. And it was never a conversation between Kobe being better than Michael Jordan. There's no legitimate argument to say that Kobe is better than him. To say LeBron's not better than Michael Jordan, that's fine. But to say it's not close is utterly ridiculous. That's just feelings and emotion. And
this is the problem with this whole Mamba mentality talk that you keep running on. And again, because I don't expect people who hold calculators to understand what I'm talking about. It's not about who took the shot and who was willing to take the shot. Although if LeBron James is willing to do certain things, his finals record might be a little bit better. But it's also about what he does on the basketball floor, how it impacts the entire game as far as how the defense covers you. I've read countless articles. I've heard countless coaches say that we're going to defend LeBron a certain way because we're not worried about him beating us with scoring. It's not the same when you have the immense amount of pressure that Kobe puts on a defense where you have to have 2 or 3 people on them at all times. That makes coaching difficult. That makes defending difficult. That makes rotations difficult. If I can sag one guy, or in one case, put Andre Iguodala on LeBron and say, we're going to put one guy on him and we'll figure out the rest. That's not happening with Kobe because coaches know you have to oppress Kobe Bryant in order to beat him. So when you talk about Mamba mentality, understand is how the amount of pressure that 24 or 8 brought to the table and how defenses had to account for it. Popovich couldn't do nothing with him.
No, that's that.
Douglas couldn't do nothing with him. It's called pressure. It's called X's and O's. These are the things that matter. Stop telling me stats. Tell me how what he did impacted the outcome of the game. Talk about that. That's why. Matter of fact, boom, Carl, I got a question, right? Boom. Carl,
Go ahead. What's up?
You're a producer. You're a content creator, right?
Yeah.
I'm your peer, right? If a bunch of your peers tell you Carl Coulonge is one of the best to ever come out of SFC, wouldn't that matter?
Absolutely. It means a lot.
Why does it not matter when Kobe Bryant's peers who did the same thing as him say that he's up there? How does that not matter when people who hold calculators
people got each other on their own agenda?
That to me. How does it not matter?
First
we
of all,
all do the same thing, and we all agree that one guy's the best. How does that not matter now because there's LeBron involved? Explain.
Because people got each other on their other agendas, first of all. Now let's look at the eye test. LeBron is
so it's thousands of NBA players with agendas. Okay.
Cool. They do, first of all.
But again, Falco, could you elaborate a little bit on what do you mean by agenda? So you're saying that players who come out and say that Kobe is greater or he's in the conversation have an agenda to do what? To diminish what LeBron?
He's their idol. Of course they're going to say he's the greatest or he's in the conversation because they like him. It's called respect. It's respect for one another, and it's called feelings and emotion. That's what it is. But if you want to look at the eye test of impact the game, LeBron's bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic, shoots better, jumps higher, and can pass better. In terms of
when you play high school sports, if they said you was nice, it was emotions. If the people you played against in Long Island said Brandon Falco was the best I ever played against, that's feelings and emotions. That's not objectivity.
Yes, people like me, yes. If people like me.
So basically,
if I was their idol, yes. If I was their idol, yes.
Emotions. It can't be objective. That's what you're saying.
It's not objective because there's no legitimate argument to say he's better.
All these people that you played against, y'all do the same things. They able to deduce who's the best.
But you know what, Brandon? I don't think Ray is saying Ray is not debating better. I think he's debating Kobe's in the conversation. That's all he's saying. He's not saying who's better. He's just saying Kobe belongs in the conversation.
I don't think Kobe's a top 5 player. That's a conversation for another day. I think he's definitely in the top 10, of course. But LeBron impacts the game more between his versatility of scoring and passing. No one in the history of basketball has the versatility to score at will like he does. Scores better than almost anyone. A top 3 scorer right now in the history of basketball, and he's the best passer since Magic Johnson. He makes the right play.
He's great. LeBron's great. We know that.
Fans like Kobe because they love the Mamba mentality and that he is a tough shot taker and he wants the moment. People love that. And
what else, Brandon? And what else? And he won more. What he did led to championships. Finish the sentence, Brandon.
No, first of all, if you want to talk about finals MVPs, LeBron actually has more, 3-2. 5 championships.
5 chips. That's 18 of 5.
Okay, so Brandon, you talk about being a scorer. You talk about being a scorer. So you believe LeBron's a better scorer than Kobe?
I mean, his mentality to score, no, but in the postseason, the numbers, I didn't make it up. It's not my opinion. I didn't make it up. He's had more 40-point games, more 30-point games. He averages more points on a better field goal percentage. That's all I got to say.
The physical act of playing the sport, according to Brandon Falco, doesn't matter. The contemporaries who also do the same thing as you, doesn't matter. Why? Because the calculator says all. Understood.
The thing is, LeBron does more.
You're an athlete and you're talking about stats. You hate to see it.
LeBron does more with less. We've seen it multiple times. And the last time we seen him in the playoffs, they were the worst team in the NBA.
But we don't care about doing more with less because at the end of the day, because what y'all try to do is y'all try to leverage that argument into having an excuse when he doesn't get it done.
Okay, so Ray, let me ask you this question though. Let me ask you this question. If you're looking at the MVP count, the MVP count is 4-1. Does that play a factor?
Top 2.
Say that again, Brandon.
And in terms of top 2, because the media doesn't like Kobe.
Does the MVP? So we talk about accolades, we talk about rings, we talk about individual accolades. Does that individual accolade, looking at that MVP, we know MVPs do matter to the players. Is that a big knock on Kobe only having 1 to LeBron's 4?
Of course, it's a knock on Kobe. Kobe wasn't a nice person, and because of the relationships that he burned and the bridges that he burned over the years, the people who mattered when it came to MVP votes voted against him. These are the facts. I don't come here to argue opinions. I know what I'm talking about. Many people who vote for MVP who are related to the NBA media did not like Kobe Bryant during his playing career, and a lot of them believed he was fraudulent after he retired and during the retirement tour. Kobe didn't make any friends. He burned a lot of bridges. He said the wrong things at the wrong time, and that hurt his narrative, not the actual on-court impact. The narrative, the story of Kobe Bryant is what got impacted, which is why when he passed away, a lot of people realized on the back end to your initial question, Carl, that, you know what, we killed this guy for a long time, but he really was great. All of his contemporaries, people who played with him, people who played before him, people who played after him, all realized, like, this guy was really one of the best, if not the best to ever do it. Why didn't we give him his credit when he was here? There's a reason why that happened. It's not emotions. It's because we saw what we saw. We know what happened. We got people in the comments talking about playing with prime Shaq. Shaq was in his prime. time in 2000 in Game 7 against Portland. Who showed up in that game? Kobe. 2001 entire Western Conference playoffs with Prime Shaq. Who showed up?
Shaq averaged 38
a lot of y'all try to do this revisionist history thing, but I watch the games. I don't need a calculator. I know basketball, so I don't need a calculator to tell me how one player impacts the game and how what he does best leads to championships. The end.
LeBron impacts the game more than Kobe Bryant does.
But when he goes up against upper tier competition,
he has had better teams. He's really had better teams.
It's not about better teams. It's about what he does.
Kobe won 3 championships with the greatest player in the game, most dominant force in the history of basketball, Shaquille O'Neal, having a teammate average 38
more with less doesn't matter because
Brandon though, to be fair, again, you said he won with one of the greatest players. At the time LeBron went to Miami, he had 2 of the top 10 players, you could argue, in the league. I'm just being fair. I'm just throwing it out there in Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade.
No, the thing is, he tries to make the whole spotlight on Kobe. Like Kobe threw the whole team on his back and willed into a championship, which is false. Shaquille O'Neal averaged 38 points in the finals. In 2013, Dwayne Wade was basically hobbled at both of his knees, at least one of his knees, rather. He didn't show up in Game 6. He had a really poor performance.
Once again, blaming teammates. This is crazy.
No, the truth. I didn't make it up.
You rarely get Kobe fans blaming teammates, but LeBron fans consistently, their go-to move is blaming teammates. And Worldwide Sports said in the comments, my friend, I can do what I want to do. I'm gonna compare them, bro.
No, the thing is, if you're going to compare team championships, compare their teammates. Dwayne Wade, as great as Dwayne Wade was, he's not.
So Kobe Bryant played with super teams. What was Pau Gasol doing before he got to LA? Let me know.
He should have won Finals MVP in 2010. That's actually what he should have done.
Let me. What did he do prior? What was Pau? Answer the question, Brandon. What was Pau doing before he got to LA?
Nothing.
Exactly. So I don't want to hear what you're talking
about. Okay. Guys, we're coming up on time. Guys, we're coming up on time. Falco, final thoughts here to the audience. Plead your final case in this debate.
LeBron impacts a game way more than Kobe Bryant between his versatility of passing and scoring. You know, with LeBron, he's not going to force bad shots like Kobe did. It is what it is. As great as Kobe was, he took tough shots, he hit tough shots, but it's not helping your team necessarily because it's bad shots. LeBron will always make the right play, find the open teammate. Guys kill him for that because it's not the Mamba mentality. It's not the killer instinct that they say, but it's the right play. If you're double teamed, the right play is to make a great pass, which LeBron has done throughout his entire career. He doesn't care about the whole Mamba mentality, the killer instinct. It's about making the right play, which LeBron has done time and time again, and he is better in every metric than you look at. Kobe Bryant was a great player, no disrespect, rest in peace, but he's not in the same level and same conversation as LeBron James and Michael Jordan.
Okay. Ray, you got a quick comment from Worldwide Sports. I love you, Ray. LOL.
I love them too. I appreciate it.
Ray, final thoughts here to the audience. Final thoughts.
Yeah. We talking about, he keeps saying not on the same level, not on the same level, not on the same level. And it's crazy to me. We talk about post-game, Kobe, mid-range, Kobe, three-point game, Kobe, the amount of pressure you put on the defense, Kobe Bryant, the amount of times you won a championship, Kobe Bryant. At the end of the day, Kobe Bryant might not have done things the way LeBron James did it. Granted, they are 2 different styles of basketball player. Again, let's be clear about that. If Kobe Bryant wanted to play the way LeBron played, where it's LeBron ball and he wanted to dictate the terms at all times, of course you could compile the numbers. If LeBron James decided to play Kobe style and be off the ball a little bit more than he was, he wouldn't have those stats. So it's easy to argue. Also, it's easy to dominate when you're a freak of nature. Like, let's be clear. Like, nobody wants to contest LeBron in the paint.
I wouldn't either.
Can I finish? Jesus. At the end of the day, LeBron James is 6'8", 260. He's listed at 240, but we know better. The man is a freak of nature. He dominates in the paint. Credit where it's due. But when it comes to the physical act of ball, I'm going to go with the guys who played and who were better than or less than or whatever. They stood next to greatness and they know what they saw. If I went to Brandon Falco's high school and I talked to his coach and I talked to his teammates and they told me Brandon was nice, I'm going to believe them because they were right there. They saw it. So again, if you want to tell me the statistical argument, Kobe would never win that. Kobe was a gunner. He was a thrill seeker, regardless of whatever. He was a bit of a psychopath too. It's cool. But again, championships, playing at the highest level. And I'm going to let you go right here. People need to remember that there's levels to NBA talk, right? When you get to the Kobe Bryant and LeBron James level, You have to talk about rings. You have to, because that's the great separator. It's what you did on the biggest stage at the biggest moment. Did you attack? Did you try to kill? When you were 6 of 24 in Game 7, did you run away from the basketball? Did you try to kill anyway? Kobe tried to kill. I can't say that for LeBron. LeBron might run away from the ball if his shot is off, because the approach to the game is different. But the results were not different. 5 is more than 3 because he wanted that 5 and he killed for that 5. And I can't take the opinions of a guy with 2 LeBron James jerseys over his shoulders seriously. He's never going to be objective about LeBron.
3 finals MVPs versus 2 finals MVPs. We want to talk about it in terms of the rings, but rings is not an individual argument. That is a team accomplishment. A team did that by himself because Kobe Bryant.
It's only a team accomplishment when it's convenient to the person arguing against it. Try again.
No, it's not. It's true.
Try again.
Gentlemen, thank you. Gentlemen, I think we may need a part 2. This was wonderful. I'm going to allow the Sports Hit List group to vote on who is the winner of this debate. We'll take a poll. Guys, thank you for joining me here on the Sports Hit List by the fans, for the fans of Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Take care. You're watching the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. Let me bring in my next contributors who are joining me to talk about some college football being canceled. Let me introduce who we have coming in here. We have Coach Womack is coming in. We also have Ricardo's coming in. Coach, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Are you still on your trip? Are you good?
No, I'm back, man. I'm back.
You back? How was it? You had a good time?
Yeah, man. Got some work done. Saw some good people. Definitely had a good time.
Florida, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You got me?
Yes. What did you guys think of that debate? I know you guys are 2 Kobe enthusiasts. What did you guys think of Falco and Ray over here? Real quick thoughts.
It's like Ray said towards the end, man. The people who absolutely love LeBron just can't be objective, man. It's a tough thing to do.
Coach, what are your thoughts?
I thought Falco did a good job, man. Because, like it or not, it is a true statement that after Kobe passed, a lot of people who didn't hold him in that high of a regard actually started to. They gave him his flowers after he passed. But to say he's not in the conversation, I think is ridiculous. He is absolutely in the conversation. Now, if you want to debate who is at the top of it, then I give it to you. Kobe would probably fall 3rd on my list. He would fall 3rd in that grouping. But to say he's not in the combo, I think is an outlandish statement.
All right, gentlemen, we're here to talk about some college football. Breaking news yesterday, we saw another big conference decide that there will not be any college football. The Big Ten and the Pac-12 will not play. 53 of the 130 teams, 40% will not play the FBS and teams, and there are some teams who are still on the fence. Coach, what's the word? You're in the college athletics game. You kind of have an insight to it. What's your feel about college sports returning in the fall and seeing how some of these teams are not playing college football?
It's not looking good from what I'm hearing in terms of conversations on the back end on NCAA. You got to understand that there are so many unknowns in terms of COVID, what's happening. And now we're starting to hear, different research of how COVID is affecting people even after they recover from having the virus. So the problem is when you call these kids student athletes who aren't getting paid for their likeness, and they're making millions and millions of dollars for some of these universities in terms of football. If you put them out there, they're no longer just student athletes, they're employers. And once they become employers, then the argument comes to disband the current NCAA model, which is something I don't think the NCAA wants to get into. So I think that's a big reason of the pushback from the NCAA. They're allowing the schools to make the decisions or quote unquote dictate the decisions, but you can see from the NCAA's non-stance where they want to go and where they want the conversation to go.
Rick, what are your thoughts? Having half teams play football, having the other teams don't play, is that really college football and with no fans too?
I think overall the biggest issue is the fact that you have these conferences, specifically the Power 5 conferences, that are operating as individual entities. So there's no way to reach a common ground. There's no way to reach any type of agreement and have the entire system move one way or the other. So, that battle, I think, is what's causing most of this strife, is the fact that, you've got certain conferences that are in certain parts of the country that feel one way about this entire situation compared to others, So the fact that some want to play, some don't want to play, that's a natural effect of what we're dealing with, the way the entire body is set up. So going forward, it's going to be one of those situations where if you get three of those 5 conferences to actually move forward, now when we're going to see some of the teams that want to stand out from the conferences that don't want to play, are they going to try to work out a system where are they joining a conference temporarily for the season just to get a season in? Like, we have no idea. Like, we're literally headed towards a mayhem situation that, the NCAA, I'm sure, is fearing at the highest level.
We see a lot of comments from the players, Coach. Have you spoken to a lot of players and what their feel is? I've seen a lot of players hashtagging "We want to play." What is your conversations with college athletes in Brooklyn or just across, and how they're feeling about it?
I mean, of course, the kids want to play, and as coaches, you want them to play, but you got to understand. When I was 18 years old, I definitely would want to play and say, "Give me any waiver to play the game." But now in my 30s, as an adult, how do I look at the situation in terms of, what's the aftermath, and what schools are going to be held accountable for, and is it safe to play? Unfortunately, you can't put a bubble on college sports. It's not like the NBA where you could take 22 teams and put them in Orlando. It's not going to be like that. You have maybe 50 roster spots for football. How are they going to travel? Every team can't take chartered planes to who they're playing against. The hotel situations. How are you going to handle all of that? This is something, I think this is, I don't want to say lack of leadership on parts of the NCAA, but this is something that should have been discussed in March. They should have foreseen a future not happening and tried to put in plans. I guess like everyone else, they had hope for the best in terms of COVID. And now that COVID is still here and actually a second wave has reached our country, we're not prepared to actually put the product out and take care of all these kids.
I want to kind of piggyback off of that as like you make a valid point. I think one of the things we're seeing now with football in general, whether it's the NCAA or the NFL, I think, with revisionist history, they could obviously say like they did a poor job of accurately setting up a system for this scenario, just because in their minds, they felt we've got all this time. They had the benefit of being the last ones to have to come out and start a season. I guess I don't know if that's the case, but they hinged on the fact that it'll all blow over by then, where football will be okay. And now we're seeing, the immediate effects of those poor decisions.
So Rick and I had a conversation last night, and we were talking about, as you know, I'm a basketball guy. He's a football guy. And he said, listen, he believes the NFL may take advantage of no college football on Saturdays to the point where he said 5 days of football a week. Now, Rick, I know where you stand on that. Coach, could you see the NFL taking advantage of no college football and trying to get 5 days of football in? Is that a possibility?
100%. What did the NBA just show us? The NBA started broadcasting games at 12 p.m., knowing that everyone, 75% of people are still in their homes working. So they started playing games at 12 Eastern time and 2 p.m. The NBA would never do that on a weekday. If there's no other sports going on Saturdays and the NFL has the product, of course they're going to put the games out on Saturday.
Rick, could you elaborate a little bit more about our conversation that we had about that?
Yeah,
I know you were coming at me real hard yesterday in the chat.
Yeah, I mean, Coach makes a great point. I mean, it's amongst those things that I was mentioning in the chat yesterday. Like, it just makes sense. If there's nothing else available, why not dominate the time slots? I gave you the specific example. You've already got Thursday, you've already got Sunday, you've already got Monday. Saturdays have always been a kind of a little toy on the side when college football went dead in December anyway. Now you're really only talking about jumping out on Fridays, and you've got built-in Blockbuster. It wouldn't be hard for them to go out and get the rights to Friday Night Lights. NFL presents Friday Night Lights. Networks are going to be lining up to get that, regardless of if it's Chiefs versus Bucks or, Jags versus whoever. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That type of demand that you have for the NFL, it makes sense that if those slots are available and there's nothing else being played on TV, why not?
Carl, listen, I wake up every morning to Korean Baseball League or the Japanese Baseball League at 7 a.m. You do not think that NFL is going to take advantage of any time they could put a game on? Let's be for real.
Maybe it's just a bias in me not wanting them to steer the ratings in their favor because I'm a basketball guy. So I was coming at it. Dan, can you hear us? I'm trying to get Dan in. I don't think Dan, I can't hear you, bro. Guys, could Dan, could you hear us?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So we wanted to just get your quick thoughts about college football, and we see a lot of we see the Big Ten and the Pac-12 canceling. What are your thoughts about college football for the fall season, real quick?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to college football and kind of what's going on right now, it's pretty interesting. I think what we realize is, as the American Athletic Conference Commissioner told me, there's no czar of college football. There's no overlord, so to speak. And I think that's, it's kind of become a wake-up call to a lot of people, in all honesty, that the Pac-12 could do what they want, the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, and the SEC, the American, the Patriot League, and so on. There is no overseeing law. There's no overseeing body. And I think we're realizing now more than ever, and maybe for the first time, just how divided college football is and how each conference can kind of just do what they want to do at this point.
All right. Guys, real quick, final thoughts. Final thoughts on this. Are we going to see college football officially canceled? Is there a possibility we may get half teams play or half teams not play? Coach?
I don't think we're going to see them come back in the fall. What I think is the best plan of action for them is to actually plan for the spring, because then you give time for developing cases in terms of what's happening with the entire health situation. Like Dan alluded to, what college football is actually following is what our country has followed. You got the president of the United States, but he left it to the governors to decide for each state what they mandated. So when you have 50 governors mandating different rules and different regulations, you get chaos, and that is exactly what is happening. One thing that college football is beholden to is the dollar. That's why they were holding on. The money that they could be made in terms of these games. Now, some of these teams are starting to see no fans, then I'm not putting out any team, because it just doesn't make sense also financially. If you're not how are you gonna put these different testing in order? How are you gonna test every day, every athlete, every person, every staff member who works there? How are you gonna quarantine in hotels if you don't have the funds that are coming in from these games? And some of the teams don't have the funds in terms of TV rights. All of their money comes from the actual people that go into the stadiums and watch the games. So I can't see college football coming back at least until next spring.
Rick, you may get your wish of getting football 5 days a week. Do you see college football coming? I mean, NFL. Do you see college football coming back?
So I honestly think in some shape or form, we are going to see some type of college football this year. On what level, in what capacity, I don't know. How many teams, I'm not sure. For how long, who knows? The only reason I say that and believe that is because both of the other gentlemen touched on a very important point, and it's that what is going on with college football right now is an exact microcosm of what is going on within our country. It is the inability for individuals with their own self-interest to collaborate to reach one common goal. And people love to say, keep politics out of sports. NCAA football is about to hit head on with politics over this situation, simply because when you're dealing with with conferences like the SEC, the ACC, and Big 12, where most of their teams are in the South, most of these schools and organizations are in the South. These are people who love, live, and want football. So politically, they are going to do whatever they can to get football. So I absolutely believe at some point or another, we will see some college football. Just have no idea what it's going to look like. And I think the other big thing too that the NCAA is going to have a major issue with is that this is the intersection where they are going to reach that no matter how much justification they could put out to say why they should move forward and play, it's going to directly coincide with all of the reasonings why these student athletes should be getting paid.
Dan, we have a split on the panel. Jamal says no football. Rick says they may be football. You have the final decision. What's your prediction about college football returning in the fall?
I believe that there is going to be some type of football. they've been clear. They put out a release yesterday, and they kind of said a lot of nothing, which was we're going to continue to monitor, we're going to continue to look at what's going on, we're going to continue to try and figure out what our media or medical advisory board says and whatnot. Basically, it was we're just going to keep on this road that we've been on. The SEC put out a similar message. We're going to keep on the road. We trust our people. We trust that our schools are doing what they're supposed to do. Rick brought up a good point. The South is a different world. God, family, football. That's how it is. And so you tell Alabama and Auburn and Florida that there's going to be no football. You tell FSU that there's going to be no football. It's people don't understand that. And you tell Miami, people don't understand that. So I think in Georgia and whatnot. So I think ultimately we're going to see some type of football. I think the conferences that decide to stay in that are doing what they're doing. I mean, Dino Babers at Syracuse, we talked with him this week, and he made the comment that he would put his numbers up to anybody in the country and be in the Final Four. And Onondaga County, where Syracuse University is located, has a less than 1% rate of people testing positive. And that's been going back in the state of New York to the end of June, July, and now August. So there's a lot of belief that they can do this. They can do it safely. We've seen the NHL do it. We've seen the NBA. We've seen the MLS. This is obviously different because it's not a one finite bubble. But I think we'll see some type of football, and I think the conferences that stay in are going to capitalize because you're going to be the only show in town. If the American Athletic decides to stay in this thing, they've been monitoring everybody, and the ACC stays in, and the SEC, and so on and so forth, then, they're going to corner the market. And the Pac-12, I mean, anybody watching them knew that they were on their way out. The players and the things that they were saying, the Big Ten never looked like they were fully in it. But now Nebraska is saying they want to keep going. They've said little remarks like, we would hope that we could still compete at some point. So I think you're going to see colleges make their decisions. I think you're going to see conferences make their decisions. And we will see some type of football, I believe, in the fall. And, according to the Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, he said everybody can play in Florida. So, I mean, I can't
listen, we can't listen to Ron. We've already seen him backpedal a couple of times. But Carl, can I ask Dan a question real quick?
Yeah, real quick. And
really,
Dan,
really
could
quickly.
Dan, could you possibly check your sound? Because I think your sound was a little low coming in on the last feed. Go ahead, Coach.
Dan, if you can hear me, from your conversations and you being totally involved in the sport, what do you see being best? Do you see teams breaking up and each conference just playing if they feel comfortable, or would you rather a spring season where we get all the conferences together and maybe actually really get a unified champion in bowl series?
I'm sorry, Dan, I can't hear you, man.
Your
sound, I can't hear you, bro. No. You're not coming in. I think
what happens when I try and be call and ask questions.
Coach, I'm sorry, man. We're gonna have to move on to the next segment.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay,
We can hear you now. We got it.
Okay.
Real quick, Dan, because we got to move on to the next segment. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So to answer the question, I would say that in all honesty, would I like to see everybody play together? Absolutely. In the spring, I don't think it's going to work out. In the case of Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence and guys like that are going to be getting ready for the NFL and whatnot. So we're going to lose a lot if we see it in the spring. These guys know, these fifth-year seniors know, these NFL draft hopefuls, they all know that they need to have fall football. What I was a proponent for, which I haven't heard anybody talk about, and maybe you guys did a little bit earlier here before I jumped on, but I would have been for not the conferences, but regional. Florida teams play Florida teams. South and North Carolina teams play each other. Syracuse plays a Northeast schedule with Boston College and the Penn States and stuff like that. Okay. And you keep it in somewhat of a regional bubble. If you were to do that, and there was an outbreak in Florida with Miami and FSU, you don't have Syracuse coming down. You don't have Boston College. You don't have Notre Dame. So I think that if we did a regional bubble, we could have made it happen so that these conferences still have their teams, but that we function in these little quadrants, essentially, for college football. And I think we could have seen it in the fall if they had done that. But the NCAA, as always, has shown us that they've had no plan in 5 months.
That's why Adam Silver is the best. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me on this segment. Dan, I'll see you soon for your show. Yeah. Dan, I'll see you soon on your show. Coach, I'll see you for the first round predictions on Sunday. You guys take care. Rick, you're sticking around for some NFL talk. All right, let me bring in some of my NFL contributors here. We have Paul.
I'm gonna sip a beer real quick.
And Dan, I'll see you soon, man. Thank you.
Here, Rick, you're sticking around for some NFL talk.
All right, let me bring in some of my NFL contributors.
We have Paul coming in, and let me bring in Travis. I forgot Travis, guys. I'm sorry. How can I forget Travis? You're watching the Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans live on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Carl, drinking's allowed, right?
I don't know what you're drinking. I just say you're having a. I don't know what you're drinking.
It doesn't matter what's in the bottle. It's just a bottle.
It's just a bottle, right? Let me talk to. Let's see, Paul the Great. Paul, how you doing, bro?
What's up, baby? You know, ready to give y'all some knowledge. You know what I do.
We have Mr. Box Office Travis McCain. Travis, what have you been doing since the NFL Mount Rushmores have concluded?
Man, I've just been sitting here relaxing, tuning into the baseball Mount Rushmore. You know what I mean? I've seen some crazy stuff going on there.
Yes.
It's football. It's football time.
Listen, following you guys make sure you watch this. Is Babe Ruth overrated? Greg and his brother are ready to cook on that segment. That's coming up next for those of you who are watching live. But right now, we are talking the NFC West. We had the San Francisco 49ers make it to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, they came up short, 31-20 against the Kansas City Chiefs. We also had the Seahawks also win the wild card in that division. So let me go to Rick first. Rick, what do you predict coming out of the division for this year?
Man, I think this is going to be one of the weirdest divisions in the league this year. I think it's probably the toughest to call top to bottom. They've got great talent throughout the league. Obviously, you mentioned division. Sorry. Obviously, you mentioned the 49ers making it to the Super Bowl. How can you overlook that? The Seahawks have the built-in pedigree, so you already know what they're bringing to the table. The Rams just recently got to a Super Bowl too. Some will say, they kind of had an off year and whatnot. A little, I don't want to say rebuilding, but a little retooling going on there maybe. And then you've got one of, what I think is going to be the most surprising and most improved teams in the league over in Arizona. So overall, top to bottom, those games I think are going to be extremely entertaining. I think we see Seattle get back to the top of the division, in my opinion, followed by the rest in some shape or form. I think at 2, it's really going to be up and down between between the Rams and the Cardinals. I think we see a fallback on the 49ers.
All right, Paul the Great, what are your thoughts? What do you think?
Like we've seen in the NFC North, I think NFC West is probably the most difficult and challenging division from a talent perspective. I do not see the 49ers stepping back. I got the 49ers winning the division. And the reasons are very simple. Their core is intact on both sides of the football. So you lose a guy like DeForest Buckner, but you replace him with the Javon Kinlaw in the first round out of South Carolina. You add an additional explosive weapon to go with Deebo Samuel, who really was on fire toward the end of the year, and Brandon Ayuk out of Arizona State, another deep threat. My only true concern for those guys is the back end, with Richard Sherman getting older, et cetera. And the Niners actually have the weakest schedule out of that entire division, right, out of those 4 teams, right? Their only real challenging games on the road is in Dallas and in New Orleans, and the only real outside of division tough home game is with the Patriots. We don't really know what to expect from New England yet. So that's a long shot. Whereas Seattle didn't really do anything, right, to make the team better. I'm concerned that maybe they get AB, who will be available from week 9 on. We've seen him hanging out with Russell Wilson and Ciara while she was pregnant playing football and everything. So maybe that happens. And that changes their dynamic completely. I'm not sure how you stop a team that has Metcalf in year 2 with Lockett and the slot and the AB, and you veteran presence like Greg Olsen at tight end. I don't know how you stop that team, but I am concerned. They got to travel to Atlanta. They travel to Philly. They travel to Buffalo. They host Minnesota and New England. Those are trap games, honestly. I got the Rams worst in the division. I just don't see how you could think that the Rams even have a winning record this year, right? You lose Gurley, you lose Fowler, Littleton, Cooks, Greg DeLay, right? And you only bring in a Leonard Floyd, and Jared Goff hasn't really done anything. So I don't know who's actually going to play running back. So I'm concerned.
Yeah. 2-1.
So Rick, did you just get a score? You can update us. It's okay.
Yo,
we're
my
live.
bad, man. PSG was down 1-0, man. They just scored 2 goals in 5 minutes, bro.
So Rick just got an update from his son. Shout out to his son, Caleb, for coming in.
5 updates on air.
I told him that's the only reason he's allowed to come up here is if PSG scores. Yo.
That's the first time, Rick. That's the first on the live. Like, you got a live update score, and we got a live reaction. Yeah. So Travis, what are your thoughts about the NFC West? Do you agree with the panel? I know Mr. Box Office has a different take.
Man, I mean, let's start off with the Arizona Cardinals. We got Kyler Murray in year 2. A lot of people think he's going to follow the trend of the past few years of second-year quarterbacks. You know, Carson Wentz, he would have won MVP if he hadn't got hurt. You got Patrick Mahomes in his second year. You got Lamar Jackson in his second year winning MVP. A lot of people are trying to jump on that bandwagon. I'm not here for it. I mean, you added DeAndre Hopkins for a steal out of Houston, which is an amazing move right there, one of the top 3 receivers in the league. But that offensive line is still a question for me. I mean, he was sacked, 41 times or so last year? I didn't see too many improvements to upgrade that. You took Isaiah Simmons in the first round right there, put him in that inside linebacker position. I think the Cardinals are building a nice little defensive unit there on the low. I mean, you add Isaiah Simmons, you got Budda Baker, who was one of the highest tackling safeties in the league last year. You got Chandler Jones right there, who's an extremely underrated pass rusher, and you still got Pat P out there in the cornerback position. So I think that defensive unit is going to be an upgrade right there, the one to watch out for. But I'm not there yet on that Kyler Murray MVP bandwagon. Moving on to the Seahawks, how long is Russell Wilson? How long are they going to depend on Russell Wilson to pull off the magic? Like, I mean, they have a very weird offense. They're not very advanced in their offense. They're kind of a ground and pound, and then when they get in situations, they let Russell Wilson sit there and get them out of it. How long are you going to keep doing that? They're obviously trying to rebuild that Legion of Boom over there by bringing in Jamal Adams at the safety position. Hopefully he can replace Cam Chancellor and see what that happens. They also brought in a few. Carlos Hyde, I kind of like that free agent addition, a nice piece to that running back core. We'll see what he can do right there. Greg Olsen might still have something left in the tank. They had some pretty good young tight ends right there, so that might be a decent core to also add. They brought back Bruce Irvin, who's another guy from that Legion of Boom era. And like Paul said, they might get Antonio Brown later in the season. You bring that in, that's an explosive offense right there. I just hope they can bring that offense into the 21st century and stop waiting to get into bad situations before we put Russell Wilson to get that.
You know what? Let me interject because I just looked at the top NFL 100 list, and Russell Wilson is number 2, Travis. Now, we know how much you play onto that list, so could you take a could you just answer some questions?
You don't want to go down this road about me depending on players' lists.
Listen,
you got Ramona Shelburne out here talking about
Travis,
on narratives.
you know Carl Coulage, you know Carl Coulage. I'm all about consistency now. You just said you're in trouble with Russell Wilson. But he is on that 100 list. He's number 2 in what you like to preach is a list that you base off of. So what are your thoughts on that? How can you say that, you want him to show up, but he's top 2 on the list?
I never said I don't want Russell Wilson. I want the offense to move into the 21st century. I want them to be more explosive. I want them to stop waiting until they're in bad situations to say, here, Russell, go save us. Like, let's stop doing that. Stop getting in third and long situations.
Travis, to Pete Carroll's defense, Russell Wilson also puts them in those situations, right? He's like,
the offensive line is trash. It's been trash for years.
You can't keep running around talking about the O-line is this and the O-line is that. They got weapons around Russ for the first time in years, right?
Now.
Right. Last year, they weren't always in trouble. I mean, they had a great season last year. And they're gonna get better, right? You know how hard it is to bring along a second round draft pick to learn the curriculum, learn the game, and then be an ex-receiver. I mean, come on, bro.
He said curriculum. That's one of my words.
So listen, get back in.
Thank you, MVP.
I think the offense is ready for progression. The question is
Carroll
gonna allow it to progress?
And the main point on that, I honestly feel like that progression is going to rely on how they continue to evolve and develop DK Metcalf. That kid is the truth. And if they cut him loose and let him fly, that offense is going to be completely different than what we've seen.
Exactly, Rick. And the reality is, with DK Metcalf's skill set, right? He's 6'4", he's a walking muscle, and he's faster and more athletic than 90% of the people out there. That's natural. It's naturally going to happen. But what made Russ number 2, as Carl highlighted, and why we call him Danger Russ, is his ability to do things unconventional. The improvising aspect of Russell Wilson's game is what makes him a Hall of Famer. I mean, I think he's a Hall of Famer if he continues on this trajectory. But that's who they are. That's why Lockett's winning routes 70 yards down the field. It's the scramble. And you got a quarterback that's mobile and deadly accurate. Usually you get one or the other. Russ is both. You know,
because you got to improvise because things break down.
Trav, I said
so
it.
Therefore,
I gave you that adjective already. I just told you that. All right.
Right. So why are things breaking down? Because the offensive line. Because there's not a lot of creativity.
No. But when you got a guy like Russ, he's there for that reason. He's there to be able to do his thing when that happens. That stuff's going to happen to all teams.
What has been the biggest knock on Russ's whole career? He held the ball too long. We've seen that since college. Mm-hmm. So that plays a role in these sacks and having a duel, etc. stuff. And there's one other thing. I mean, you excuse my French, but you took a poop on the Arizona Cardinals, and I want to address you for that, Cookie Man.
All right, what you got? What you got for me?
Simmons is probably the
Listen, he got the Cookie Man. Look, the Cookie Man is right there for him, Paul. It's right there for him. It's right there.
I'm not doing this, man.
He got the Cookie Man, Paul.
I can't with y'all. Yo, we need to get them their own show.
Listen.
We need to get them their own show, yo.
Listen. I saw it and I had to call. The minute he said Cookie Man, I had to call it out.
It's the Disney in the Disney play section over here. Here's the thing: Isaiah Simmons is easily probably the most athletic and most talented player that came out of the draft.
I wanted the Panthers to get him.
Right? Yeah, but they didn't. All right. So with that being said, the Arizona Cardinals was already a top 10 defense. So we know what they're going to do on D. The young corners are coming around. You mentioned Buda Baker, Hassan Reddick is there. There's a lot of talent. They even add some more veterans, right? Kennard is there. Jordan Phillips at the nose tackle. They got
Jordan Phillips.
I'm not worried about. The issue they had offensively with Kyler Murray getting sacked is they couldn't create separation. So when you get a guy like Nuke, right, because they run a spread offense, so the line is constantly moving. These aren't big-name guys that you have to draft. You played the line. You know this, Trav. You need agile, quick seal blockers when you run a zone spread. They have that now. They have that. And now
they at the O-line position.
Hang on. And they now have a receiver who can win one-on-one and command double teams at all times. Now you get a Christian Kirk, who was another youngster, a great year last year, playing his real role in the slot.
Yep.
And we've seen what Drizzy did in the backfield once he got traded. He went from out of the league to getting paid. I mean, right place, right time, right system. I'm telling you, Arizona is like.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot right now. You on the Kyler Murray MVP bandwagon?
I didn't say MVP. I got Arizona going 9-7.
Listen,
all right.
Listen, the biggest thing with the Cardinals specifically, and Paul just touched up on it. Bringing Nuke over allows them to now have someone who nearly made our wide receiver Mount Rushmore. Actually, no, he did, right? Larry Fitz did. He did make it. So you got Larry Fitz now bumped down to a number 2, and you got Christian Kirk down in the slot. Kenyon Drake is a beast. I'm saying it again. This is a Dolphin fan telling you. Kenyon Drake is a beast. We had horrible usage of him the entire time he was in Miami, and we saw that in just a few weeks in Arizona. That offense is going to be trouble.
All right, guys.
Let me run through my team real fast. The Rams are Jared Goff right there. Are you the guy? Todd Gurley's gone. Are you the guy? They brought in Cam Akers at the running back position. 49ers. I mean, is there going to be a Super Bowl hangover? People, like to trash Jimmy G, but we always forget that he's only started 26 games, so give him some more time to develop. And like Paul said, are those guys they brought in able to replace the talent that left the building?
All right, guys. For final thoughts. Who wins the division? Rick.
I'm gonna go with the Seahawks. One of the biggest things, the reasons why I see the 49ers taking the biggest drop off, that wide receiver position is gonna be spotlighted all season. Deebo Samuel is gonna have to play lights out. They drafted heavily at that position. They tried to rework the position. They brought Travis Benjamin in, who opted out of the season. That's gonna hurt him as well. So I think that's the biggest reason why we're going to see the 49ers step back. The defense is going to ball, but that offense is going to lose a step. I think Seattle's going to be the most consistent team throughout the season. But again, the Cardinals can jump up there and really make some noise.
Paul, real quick, who do you think's going to win the division?
Niners. I think that's cupcake schedule with only 2 real tests, and at Dallas and at NOLA. And unlike what Rick's thinking about with the wide receiver position, I think speed kills, man. And at the end of the day, they have a genius on that side of the ball that's calling those plays, getting those guys open. And Kittle's commanding the double team. I just don't see how the running game doesn't go away. I don't see how teams are going to physically stop the 49ers on either end of the football. And you won't score a lot of points on those guys either.
And Travis, who wins the division?
I agree with Paul. I'm going to go 49ers, man, for a lot of those same reasons. That run game is pretty formidable. That defensive line, I can't go wrong with a run game and a defensive line.
All right. Next week, we move along to the AFC for predictions and preview. You guys, thanks for joining us. The Cookie Man, say what's up. Tell Elmo I said hello.
Yo, get them their own show, man. Get them their own show.
Yo, Rick, go finish enjoying that game, man.
Hey,
Yo, Rick, go finish enjoying that game.
Yo, soccer coming soon, man. Soccer coming soon.
We're working on it. Yo,
We're working on it.
We're working on it. Guys, thank you for joining me. Let me bring in my baseball contributors. Let's get this baseball debate started. Is Babe Ruth overrated? Carl Coulage for the Sports Hit List, by the fans and for the fans. Please, thank you everyone for watching us live. We really appreciate all the fan support. Let me give a quick shout out to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can check out Down to the Wire on Monday and Tuesdays from 6 to 8. Below the Mic on Thursdays from 6 to 8. The Ryan Hickey Show from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Monday and Thursday. Caged MMA every other Friday. The Wise Guys Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8 to 9 p.m. You know what time the Sports Hit List, that's Wednesdays at 4 o'clock. Weapons Hot, you can check that out on Sundays at 7 p.m. Off the Mat, Saturdays at 12 p.m. And the Weekend Crunch on 7 on 103.9 on Long Island Radio News. The Sports Hit List by the fans and for the fans. Let me introduce my contributors. We have for the first time on the Sports Hit List live into the segment, Mr. Eddie Gonzalez. Eddie, how you doing, bro?
What's going on, man? How you doing? Can you hear me?
We have TK the Tank. He's not talking pro wrestling or baseball. He's talking baseball, not talking football. TK, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And Eddie, we can hear you.
All right. We have Greg Polius. Greg, how you doing, bro? Facts, not opinions on the sweatshirt. Filling the narrative. And we have his younger brother. Yeah, and we have his younger brother, Stefan Polius. Steph, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm doing well.
So let me give everyone some backstory to how this debate came about. I always say the younger brothers are the ones who always like to start trouble. So Greg's younger brother, Stefan, was on one of our first episode of the Mount Rushmore series. You can check out on YouTube. And we were talking about outfield position. And when Babe Ruth came up, he did not have him on his list. And he said Babe Ruth is overrated. And this led to the Sports Hit List group. Shout out to the group. And it just created a firestorm from there. Eddie commented. We had Patrick Green. We had so many people throwing in comments left and right. And then Greg's like, Carl, we got to do this on the debate. So here we are. I'm going to open the floor to Steph because he basically started it with his comment that Babe is overrated. Why do you feel that Babe Ruth is overrated?
Well, thank you for having me start. I mean, what it really comes down to is the hype around Babe Ruth. As fans of baseball, even if you're not a fan of baseball, you know of Babe Ruth, right? Sandlot was based on Babe Ruth's career and how big it was. And the man was great. I'm not denying that. I didn't deny it then. I'm not denying it now. Is he a Hall of Famer? Yes. Does he deserve to be a Hall of Famer? Yes. The issue I have is the deifying of Babe Ruth, which should not be. The man existed in an era where baseball was segregated. This country was segregated. They were not, the best of the best were not allowed to play. All right. So now you have people of color that are not allowed to be in a league, yet we consider him the best of the best. This guy did things that no one else could do when there were players doing things very similar to him in a league that were not allowed to be in his league as well. So the competition level is the talent pool is very different. So everything needs context. His stats need context. All right. Speaking about him in the way that we do deserves context. We put context on every other player when we speak about them in comparison to history, right? What gave them advantages? What gave them disadvantages? That is a huge advantage to me, to not be playing some of the best players that are out there solely for the color of their skin. Obviously not his fault. It was a unwritten rule, a gentleman's agreement, as it was called back then, that black players were not allowed to play in the league. All right, so that is why I stand on it. The idea that he is the end-all, be-all, when there was clearly a debate of who was the best players at the time, of people that were playing in the league, who were I guess not allowed to play in the league. are affecting the his overall lore.
Okay, Eddie, what are your thoughts? You were the first to comment on it, and you basically hit like, Carl, I got to be on the segment. So, what are your thoughts on them calling Babe overrated?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even know why we're having this conversation, but I'll take it. I'll take the conversation. I understand everything Stephon said, right? Here's the problem that I have with that. If you want to get real, baseball wasn't completely integrated, at least to that extent, until 1964, right? Why? What happened in 1964? Anybody know?
My man's asking questions
I'll
like
let you answer, Eddie.
Oh, he's asking questions like he's the teacher over here.
Got you. Well, I did a little bit of research. I wanted to put a little bit of respect on this, topic.
Please tell us.
But in 1964, for the San Francisco Giants, a relief pitcher named Masanori Murakami made his debut. First Japanese baseball player to ever play baseball in the major leagues. Okay, so if you want to say that integration, once again. It was shitty that you weren't able. I apologize if I'm not supposed to curse, but if you're saying that integration played a role and in the fame of Babe Ruth, that he didn't play against the best players, he didn't play against everybody or whatnot. Let's open it up. As of right now, what do people do in the off season when it comes to Japanese baseball players? They bid on them, right? They bid $50 million just to have a conversation. So that's a market. Okay, that market didn't start until 1964. Okay, as far as it goes, we're going to go ahead and say Willie Mays is overrated. Willie Mays played 10 years, 11 years after the integration of a Japanese ball player. I did the numbers on it. If you want to hear the numbers, I got the numbers of his 11-year career. And once again, I don't believe that Willie Mays is overrated, but according to not playing against everybody or a big market, or not everybody in the market. That counts for something, right? That's one piece. As far as it goes, Babe Ruth, he changed the game of baseball. How did he change the game of baseball? Baseball was a game of chess. Okay, what do? You get on base, hit and run, walk, score runs, steal bases, whatever, right? That's how baseball was played. Babe Ruth was able to hit a little bit of home runs. In the very beginning, they said, let's let him hit. What did he do? 1919, hit 29 home runs. What did he do 1920? 54 home runs. What did he do in 1921? 59 home runs. What happened? A decrease in steals, an increase in runs, an increase in home runs. Thus, he started the home run era. He started the chicks dig the long ball. Okay? He started the excitement. He was the face of, at that time, they weren't the Yankees. They got their prestige, okay, over the years. But if you're going based on who's the face of the New York Yankees, and New York Yankees are the most prestigious team in, I would say, American sports, right? That counts for something. And he was he started the trend. Matter of fact, he's part of the reason that baseball was again saved in 1998 with the home run, right? Baseball was in the dumps, and then what happened? Mark McGwire hit home runs, Sammy Sosa hit home runs, and what happened? Baseball was saved. All in influence from who? Babe Ruth. I have a lot more, but you can continue. Go ahead.
All right. So, Greg, in your last in the Mount Rushmore edition, you said if Babe Ruth were to play in this era, he wouldn't get as many, hits or home runs. And you say it again. I'm sorry.
We stink.
Okay, but you know how I feel. Again, in the interest of fairness, you know how I feel about the if comment. So I just want to call it out there. We know there are no ifs in sports; they're only facts. So your shirt says facts. So talk to us.
Okay. So first things first. Eddie's last comment, there was a complete stretch that resurgence in baseball in '98 was due to Babe Ruth hitting home runs.
So is your overrated comment. So that's okay.
Now, I let you speak. Now you let me.
No, you're good. I'm gonna shut up. I'm good.
The problem is, as soon as everyone hears overrated, they assume we are strictly talking numbers. When we call most players that are called overrated, if not all, are great players in some extent. It's how they're rated where it comes in. For example, Kawhi Leonard. There's a whole faction of people out there that believe if Kawhi Leonard wins a ring with his third team, he is then top 10 of all time. That would be overrating Kawhi Leonard. Okay? to make him a top 10 player of all time. That doesn't mean he's not a great player. That doesn't mean he won't be a first ballot Hall of Famer. That just means he is overrated in how history rates him. That is what happens with Babe Ruth. If you're going to say someone, and there's some quotes from the group here, Babe Ruth saved baseball. When did baseball need saving back then? Babe Ruth is a baseball god. Babe Ruth is baseball, the most famous figure in sports history. This is like my brother spoke about. This is the deifying of a figure who didn't even play against the best, yet we are calling him the best to ever do it. How is that possible? That is how you overrate somebody. When you completely lack the context in the era which he played. And if you said, you know what, Greg, he was the greatest player of that era, I'm fine with that. Because this is not to say Babe Ruth, me and my brother never said he wouldn't be a Hall of Famer because of integration. I personally think he would still be a Hall of Famer if there was integration. But I do not think he would be deified the way he is, to where we put him on this pedestal like no one could ever be as good as him, when that just isn't actually the case.
TK, you're on the clock.
All right, so you are saying Babe Ruth is overrated. And you said you wouldn't put him on your Mount Rushmore, Greg, your Mount Rushmore, because he didn't play the best of the best because he played in the dead ball era. But he didn't play in the dead ball era. The dead ball era, well, he played a little bit in the dead ball era, but the dead ball era in 1920. So I'm having trouble really understanding, when were baseball players, because Stefan, you said the best of the best could not play and that Babe Ruth would have a huge advantage. Those are your words. Because of that, before I start, I just want to know, when is the time period where baseball players are playing with the best of the best? I need that date from you guys in order for me to move.
So I can tell you, hold on, let me go, Chris. I got this. So I would say when you're in the 50s and the 60s, actually more in the 60s, later, early to mid 60s, are you seeing that integration? There are about, I believe there was 20% of the league is players of color. That's when I see that there's like the competition level has increased, right? And that is what matters to me, right? And again, I'm gonna let you continue your point, but I would say you're not seeing baseball in full swing until about like late 50s, early to mid 60s.
Greg, do you agree with that?
I agree with that point, but I also think it has to, like we said, context matters in everything. There are, so each particular era has their best, right? But what we are specifically focused on is that in the 1920s, the best players in America were not in the league with Babe Ruth and the like. They were excluded. So it's very tough to say someone is the best if they're excluding other players that can compete.
Okay, so I agree with Stefan, because the last team to integrate was the Boston Red Sox. They did not have anyone but white players on their team until 1959. Now, Jackie Robinson retired in 1956. So you guys, by that logic, would say that Jackie Robinson, therefore, must be overrated because he did not play the best of the best. Because I plan on putting Jackie Robinson #1 on my second baseman list when I do my Mount Rushmore. I want to know, do you guys really think Jackie Robinson is overrated because he did not play the best of the best? Is Jackie Robinson in the same class with Babe Ruth, where you can only say Jackie Robinson is the best of that era, but still he has his number retired by all of baseball?
I think that's real cute how you try to misconstrue what we're saying to prove.
I'm not misconstruing what you're saying. I am saying that you guys are saying he did not play the best of the best.
But here's the thing. Jackie Robinson, once he got in the league started to integrate. We're saying that in the 1920s, Babe Ruth did not play against anyone black. So by you admitting that when Jackie Robinson came into the league, better players came in, you are then proving our point about the 1920s. I am not
proving anyone's point. I'm saying that that's when the league integrated. I'm asking you what your opinion is on Jackie Robinson. Would you call Jackie Robinson one of the greatest of all time?
But you are trying to create a false narrative based on our argument.
I'm not creating a false narrative. I'm going with what you guys have said.
Yeah. Here we go. I got it, Chris. Let me just get this one. I'm sorry. So to answer your question, do I think Jackie Robinson is overrated? No, I would not consider Jackie Robinson overrated. We're not. You're trying to compare apples to oranges, right? Because like Jackie Robinson is not deified. What he did,
Jackie Robinson is 100% deified, as he should be.
Listen, but not for just for his statistics. Because he broke the color barrier, right? His statistics are great, But it's not the Babe Ruth, right? The best player ever. No one ever say Jackie Robinson, right? Is Jackie Robinson the god of baseball? No, he is not. He's not put on the same pedestal as Babe Ruth. So let's not compare them as they're the same.
Well,
the reason that
Jackie Robinson
part of our argument
was
was the reason that Babe Ruth is overrated is for how he is deified. If Jackie Robinson came into a league that was already integrated, we wouldn't be talking about him the same way. He was the first, which is why we speak about him in that manner. He had great numbers. Yes, there were better Negro League players than Jackie Robinson. He was just the best player to handle all of the crap and racism that was going to hit him, being the first of the black players to integrate into baseball.
Can I ask you a question? I'm sorry.
Eddie, go ahead, because I was just going to come to you. Go ahead.
For Greg and Steph, right? You said that Babe Ruth did not play against anybody. He didn't play against the best, right? In the Negro League, name me his contemporary. Tell me who did what he did in Negro League in Major League Baseball. What Babe Ruth did in Major League Baseball. Who did that in the Negro League?
You want it?
Go ahead.
Please tell me. Set it up. Set it up.
So I'm gonna put Oscar Charleston on there. Who, if it's baseball historians compare him to Babe Ruth, some even say that he was better than Babe Ruth. For the mere fact that for his average, I think he's a career 357 hitter. All right, this is something. And then when he went against white players in the major league, he was a 326 hitter. All right, so this is someone that held his own. It's not because I think some things that I heard in the chat were that we don't know if black players would play in the league if they would be good. Let's not entertain that. Another play I put on there is Josh Gibson. The man was an absolute animal. If you're talking about power hitters, see the issue with the Negro League is that the statistics weren't kept like the major leagues in the MLB. All right, so there's people that can contest it. There are a lot of, if you look online, numbers that kind of pop up. Josh Gibson is one that they put his career home run total from between 800 to 1,000. What are we even talking about? Who's hitting 1,000 these days, right? No one's speaking about Josh Gibson like that. Oscar Charleston, if you speak to people that are aware of the Negro League, he was deified in the Negro League, right? But you don't know him. I don't think anyone else in this chat really knew him. I didn't know him until I looked it up because we don't have access to that information. Just because you don't know the name does not mean they were not crushing it. And and just let me finish here. To further my point, once the MLB integrated, you saw rapidly over time that a lot of these teams were taking on black players because they saw how good they were. Not like, they have to be in the minors for a couple years to really get used to the league. No, the Negro League was rivaling the MLB at one point. And not until integration in 1947 did you see the death of the Negro League because it was booming, right? While racism aside, the Negro League baseball was very hot, very, very much a profitable league, and they were trying to make their own thing, which I'm not saying that I'm against integration, but I see the beauty in not being allowed to have something and then creating something that is almost as good, if not better.
Okay, well, I mean,
you guys are really leaving me no room to ask questions. I can't. I can't. I'm not even moderating. I'm not even moderating.
We all were very prepared and we're ready for
proper preparation prevents poor performance. You know
exactly,
that,
Carl. So what I want to bring up is, yes, Joshua Gibson, 800 to 1,000 home runs, absolutely phenomenal numbers. But you could do the same thing for Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth, it was rumored, hit 105 home runs in 1 year because of all the exhibition games he played. Now, Buck O'Neil, who was the first African-American coach in the major leagues, and he spent his whole career in the Negro Leagues, said that there was a severe lack of pitching depths in the NAL, and a study of 15 NAL stars, including Roy Campanella and Willie Mays, showed that the same players hitting 319 in the NAL were then going on to hit 271 in the MLB. So you're saying Babe Ruth's not facing the greatest, okay, but Babe Ruth still faced extreme pitching competition and just blew away that competition. Now, Greg, you always talk about his swing, Greg, okay? So you still know that Babe Ruth is using a kinetic link. He's turning linear energy into rotational energy. That's batting, all right? He's doing really the same stuff that people do nowadays. He did the things with his swing that modern power hitters still do, possibly because, all the swings were modeled after his. If you're looking at all the early stars, they all saw Babe Ruth, who Babe Ruth watched Shoeless Joe Jackson, and that they saw Ruth. They saw that he didn't stand square to the plate. He staggered his feet to create more rotational velocity. So Babe Ruth really had the original power hitter swing that everyone models themselves after. Yet Greg continuously attacks his swing. I mean, Popular Science magazine in 1921. Now, if you want to look this up, this is in the September 11th, 1921 issue of the New York Times, did a scientific examination of Babe Ruth's swing, and to gauge power, Babe Ruth swung a 54-ounce bat 75 miles per hour. That flabbergasted researchers. He tested with fine motor control and speed skills, managing to hit 132 holes with a peg, where the average score was 82. And to measure his reflex, he was asked to depress a button with his index fingers as many times as possible in 10 seconds. Those results were putting Ruth in the top 99.8%. Now, they did the same study with Albert Pujols in 2006. This time, instead of Columbia with Babe Ruth, they did this at Washington University in St. Louis. And Pujols swung a 31.5-ounce bat over 20 ounces lighter at 87 miles per hour. And if you do the math on that, that pretty much averages out. The peg test, Pujols scored slightly lower than Babe Ruth, and with the reflex test, they scored the same. So you can look at Babe Ruth and say, you know, he wasn't great, he didn't face great competition, but if you break down the science of a swing, Babe Ruth had all the potential to succeed in today's game.
Okay.
So he is great. He was the first player to do that. He was the first player to hit like that. He made baseball America's national pastime. He should be deified because he is the top of the top. He replaced Ty Cobb, who, I mean, when I made my outfield list, I had to do that in 5 minutes. I never would have taken Ty Cobb anymore after looking more into that man who was a blatant racist. And Babe Ruth is a wonderful, wonderful human being. So I just want to know what you have to say about his swing, Greg Pujols.
Okay, before Greg goes, Greg, before I let you go, just real quick, Eddie, you've been kind of quiet back there. Do you have anything to add to the conversation before I let Greg get there?
I'm trying to let Tom cook.
Okay, okay, Greg, go ahead.
So I talk about his swing in terms of it not being good in comparison to modern day. And I still stand by that. But you're making the swing the crux of the argument when I didn't. That was hyperbole for TV. Do I believe it? To an extent, yes. I don't see Babe Ruth hitting a carrot top 99-mile-an-hour two-seamer out of the stadium. I'm sorry, I just don't. You know, especially given the bat he's using. But that's not the crux of my argument. What you just said at the end, and I'm gonna quote you directly. A man born with the free spirit that infected a nation, Babe Ruth made baseball the American pastime, yet you call him overrated. And this is the problem I have, because this categorically is false. And this is the deifying I'm talking about. Baseball was America's national pastime. Let's define pastime. A pastime is something that you use literally to pass the time. And being that baseball was played in different fashions around the country in the mid-1800s to pass the time for a leisure activity, that is why it is called the national pastime or the greatest pastime. Then you have, and on top of that, baseball was the first professional team-oriented sport. And 1857, you had the National Association of Baseball Players. So you are presented, and the first team, in 1869 was the Cincinnati Red Stockings. So you are not, you're literally taking something that isn't true and putting this man on a pedestal. It's skirting history, actual history, to say he is the reason. Did he make the sport more popular? Sure, but that does not mean he is the reason that baseball is America's greatest pastime, because that is not factually correct.
Okay, guys,
baseball boomed after Babe Ruth, though. Baseball had a huge boom. Before that, it was played. You don't even count things before 1900. That's why you talk about the modern baseball era. Before that, yeah, there were some team sports, but it wasn't even really cohesive. There wasn't a cohesive rule book. Babe Ruth comes in 1914, and by 1921, he is the larger than life, grandiose player. He is. Look at this. All right, here's a bit of anecdotal evidence for you, Greg. Look at this. This is a 2008 Yankee stat. What does it say here? Trivia deck. Who's on the back? This is for 2008 Yankees. Babe Ruth, still on the back. Babe Ruth is larger than life, and he is the first baseball superstar. He's the
okay.
first.
Deck or those look like coasters, bro.
Yeah, all right, guys, we're coming up on time. I just want to get some closing arguments. Eddie, closing thoughts here.
All right. As far as it goes, I to an extent, I understand what you're trying to say about him being overrated with the allure, but he did change the game. There's nothing you can statistically say other than opinion, which is fine. You can have your own opinion. I'm gonna go through the numbers I just had. In 1918, Major League Baseball, 1,989 stolen bases, 7,382 runs scored, 235 home runs. By 1921, when the dead ball era was completely gone, before he started hitting home runs, it was frowned upon to swing. Why? Because a lot of people couldn't reach the wall. A lot of people couldn't hit the ball that far. He was one of the people that was able to do it. What happened in 1921? 1,487 stolen bases, 11,928 runs scored, 937 home runs. What he did is equivalent to what Steph Curry did with the three-point shot. Do you agree? I agree, because he did that for home runs when home runs was not a thing. The same thing with 3 points. Okay, so hold on 1 second while I sip my tea. WrestleMania cup. Okay. Once again, I keep one of my goats in good company with the other goats, right? Oh, that's the goat. Oh no, hold on. Another one. Okay, the Babe right here. And I even put him on my jersey. This is my softball jersey. Babe Ruth. Okay. I'll be honest with you, Greg. I actually had a stat because what irked me was when you said that his swing was ugly. And once again, you cleared it up. But I had a stat comparing Griffey, because Griffey had a great swing. So probably the beautiful swing that I've ever seen, or most of us. And I had it compared to Babe Ruth, in which the ugly swing that he has was much more effective.
Before I let Steph go, shout out for that WrestleMania cup, man. That's from WrestleMania last year. I got to throw that with a quick shout out for that. But Steph, your final thoughts on this on this topic?
Yeah. So I mean, we've heard both sides kind of go at it right now. Obviously, we're holding our ground. I think ultimately, because the crux of our argument is the difference in talent, right? In the early 1900s to when it eventually have more people of color in baseball, seeing a drastic difference. Now, both of you guys, TK and Eddie, you did your research, it sounds like. So you probably know when baseball integrated, the National League they were snatching up, black ball players very quickly. They were all excited about signing black ball players, whereas the American League really didn't do that. The numbers show that as well. From the late mid 50s to like early again 60s, the mid 60s, you're seeing that the NL was significantly better than the American League. And one, they had more All-Star wins and more All-Star appearances by black players. You're looking at a league where the runs scored, the home runs, like RBIs, all that was not every year, but more often than not, the counting stats favored the NL than the AL, right? And that was because that more black players were present. I think it was about 65 to 75% of the Negro League players that were playing in the Negro League now are playing in the MLB, were playing in the NL, all right? So that was a significant difference, right? And to again belabor the point, Babe Ruth is still great. I'm not saying he isn't a great player. What Greg said about players being overrated, society has, baseball fans and then even non-fans as a whole have made Babe Ruth overrated, because we always leave out that fact that there are players like Oscar Charleston who, if he has the same face time as Babe Ruth, same thing with Josh Gibson, if he was allowed to be a household name, if some of these black players were allowed to be household names, it doesn't come across the same way because the competition is different, right? And the comp is different. So we're not talking about transcending history and saying, Aaron Judge was a better hitter if you take him and put him in the early 1900s. No, I'm saying players that were around his time that just weren't allowed to have the same accolades or be noticed the same way. Historians have given credit to some of these Negro League players like Bill James. He's a baseball historian that wrote his top 100 list, and he's put about 11 or 12 Negro League players in the top 20 of that list, or 20, I think it was top 30 of that list, because of how prodigious they were in the Negro League, but even above some of the major league players. And it's important to note, you know, and I feel as though when we ultimately go back and you know, whoever's watching this right now and when they rewatch this, it's to be pointed out that Babe Ruth is not a bad player, still a Hall of Famer. Is he overrated? Yes, because of how we speak about him. He is not the god that he, you know, yes, he popularized baseball. That's not something that he did on his own, yes, but there were other players that were just as good, if not better, that had that same ability, but just were not allowed to be in the league and were locked out.
TK, real quick, because we're running up on time. Final thoughts.
Okay, well, I mean, looking at this, you know, Stefan, you know, best of the best. You had Ichiro on your Mount Rushmore. The first Asian player didn't come until 1964. So who knows if we missed an Ichiro? Who knows who we missed in those times? All we can do is measure greatness by comparatively looking at the time they played. And Babe Ruth was greatness. So you can say A is B because of C. You can say Babe Ruth, A, is overrated, B, because of segregation, C. You can say Abraham Lincoln, A, is overrated, B, because only white people were allowed to vote, C. You can say Isaac Newton, A, is overrated because women, overrated, B, because women, C, were not allowed in college to become mathematicians like him. But those arguments break down when you look at them. You can only measure greatness at the time they were great. You guys said he was great. But just like George Washington, the first president who did not get any African-American votes, he is still the first big baseball star. He is still on the $1 bill of baseball. And Babe Ruth, he did nothing but hit. So I don't understand why he's overrated. I just don't understand that argument. I don't think he's overrated. He was the first. He is there in baseball. Anything else, if Joshua Gibson was in the MLB, maybe, because he had 800,000. But we say there's no ifs in sports. So you look at the greatness. You look at Babe Ruth. He's still on this card. He's still one of the best ever. He's not overrated.
Greg, real quick, because I got to run to the next show. Final thoughts, Greg.
For Tom to sit here after however long we've been on to say he doesn't understand how we can say he's overrated tells me he was hearing, but he wasn't listening.
No, I listened to you.
I listened. Again, Eddie, the first thing I said is overrated doesn't always equate to numbers. And what did Eddie do in his final thoughts? He threw out numbers.
You equated Kawhi Leonard to Babe Ruth, bro. Are you kidding me? You equated.
Let the man finish. This is last time.
He threw my name. He said my name.
Context matters, right? Context matters in everything. Babe Ruth can be great and still be overrated in the same breath because of how we view him based on history. Yes, he was the first to do this and the first to do that. That doesn't mean he needs to be deified to the point where we say he is baseball when other dudes didn't even get a chance to show what they were worth in the league with him. That is an absurd notion to say he is baseball or he is the reason that it is America's pastime. And it is the deifying that we have a problem with that you guys continuously espouse.
All right, gentlemen, I think we may need to have a part 2. This was great. Thank you for joining me. Steph, I have a shout out from someone saying dope Demon Slayer hoodie. That's what someone said.
I work for you, man.
Someone said that.
I work for you, person. I don't know if you're a man or woman. Thank you.
That was from Manny. So thank you guys for joining me on the Sports Hit List by the fans, for the fans. Please make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe to all of our content. Episode 2 of the Mount Rushmore is coming soon. First Baseman. We have 9-part episodes. Please make sure you check out all our content. Eddie has the shenanigans with, I don't know what else he has up his sleeve showing the baseball, but he's getting more stuff. I don't know what he's getting there to close out the show.
It's the Stay Puft.
But thank you guys for joining me, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
All right, thanks, guys.